So, I recently received an email from Matteo, who is someone that emails me about Aerosoft games. And Matteo offered me not only Global Farmer, which is the game we're playing in this video, but also Heavy Cargo. I already had a key for Heavy Cargo, so I replied to Matteo and said I'd appreciate a key for Global Farmer, and within 40 minutes I had a reply with a key to play the game. So, a massive thank you to Matteo, to the devs, and to Aerosoft, the publishers. And what we are going to do in this video is go through if I believe Global Farmer is worth playing. Now, this game has a really cool and interesting concept. They let you pick anywhere in the world to start your own farm. And I've played a lot of Farm Together, I've played a lot of the farming simulator games, I've played loads and loads. There was even Farm Manager. So I have at least a basic understanding of farming and how it works. And I also really enjoy these games. But this one threw me off a little bit. I chose the town or the city where I grew up, and I started my farm. Basically what it does is this game is going to keep a lot of buildings and stuff in place, but it's going to have the grassy, fieldy areas in that area available to purchase plots. So for an example, in Brighton, the city where I grew up, you have two parks. You've got the Level and you've got Preston Park. And in this game, they are massive fields that you can buy. You can turn into plots and you can plant your crops and everything. And then there's a bunch of other little green areas, tiny little spaces where you can build your own plots and stuff. But you put down your farmhouse, you then start basically buying these fields, turning them into plots, ready for you to plant your seeds, wait for them to grow, harvest them, and sell them on to make a profit. However, while that may seem like a really good idea, and granted this game is in early access, there are a lot of issues with this game. So number one is the currencies. You have the American dollar, you've got the euro, you've got the pound, which is Great British, then you have yen. Those are the only four currencies available at the moment in the game. And while yes, they can add extra currencies in, and it might not be too difficult to do that, they are planning to only stay in early access for in between 6 and 12 months. So they don't have a lot of time. And when you jump into this game, you basically buy your first field. There's a really good tutorial that takes you through the basics of how to buy your fields, how to plant your crops, how to harvest them, how to make money from them, accepting contracts and stuff, because it's not just about hiring workers for buying machinery and then going and doing all of your farming work. There are different contracts and stuff you can take on. For an example, a company will give you the 15 grand if you can give them 1,000 kilos or a ton's worth of onions. You might have another one that's really demanding and they want 6,000 kilos or 6 tons of, say, asparagus, and they'll give you 50 grand. There are different difficulties for this game. You can basically go free mode where you can change the parameters to fit how you want to play. The default it's got for that is starting off the game with 4.3 million, well, at least when you're playing in the GBP currency. They've got casual where it starts you off, there's a losing condition if you go 500,000 in debt. You also start with about 860 grand, and then it also changes how quick your fields are going to become basically really bad to plant on. They're going to have low levels of fertilizers, and they're basically going to get weed damage a lot quicker. Then you've got hard difficulty where it starts you off with about 111 grand, and your losing condition is to go, I think it's £100,000 in debt. So you don't get a lot of freedom with that. So I chucked it on casual, started with nearly £1 million, and I started going through the tutorials. I basically got a couple of fields together, started planting on them, and I was fulfilling some small contracts. However, there are some things that are basically going to need some work done to them. They're only small issues. There's nothing major that I found wrong with this game. So number one is when I was in map view, because Brighton is on the coast, there's a texture sort of glitch. Basically the water overlaps land and it looks really weird. It's fine when you're in field view and it's fine when you're inland. It's just when water meets land, for some reason the game doesn't really get on with it. And again, just to remind you, these are small issues. And the next one is the biggest issue by far, and that is when you are planting crops. Say you accept a contract like I did, you need 2,500 kilos of corn, and you have to do it within 600 days. What this game does, and it does really well, is temperature and everything like that comes into play when it comes to your crops. So the game basically gives you a percentage of how well your crop is going to do. And if you was, for an example, to plant a crop that requires a lot of sunshine, and you do it during the middle of winter when there's barely any sun, your crop's not going to do that well. And the more damaged it gets, which can happen due to a lack of sunshine, the less yield you're going to get, so the harder it's going to be to fulfill contracts and make money on the marketplace. So basically what you do is you select your crop, you have a look at the percentages, and say you are planting corn, you choose the perfect time of year to plant it, harvest it, sell it, and so on. And the game works with a timeline, so it's got different game speeds and stuff, and it goes through the days and the years. And say for an example, you're towards the end of the year, it's coming up to winter, it's not a good time to plant corn, you need to go to the next year. Changing over to the next year is fine, but selecting a crop to place in the following year or any other years in the future is very, very difficult to do. And what I mean by that is, say you're in the year 2026 and you want to plant your crop and get it growing and everything in 2027, you change the timeline, so you click on the right side of it on the arrow, you go to 2027, and then what it does is basically, I'd say it's kind of like a glitch. Like, say you're in September and you go to the following year on the timeline, it's not going to let you drag the crop to anywhere before September in that next year, if that makes any sense. You have to manually keep clicking over and over again on the left arrow to move the crop to the left side of the timeline. So I think it needs a lot of work so that you can easily sort your crops out for the following years. It's just far too convoluted. It doesn't need to be like that. And I mean, if the system was working properly, then it could be fine to stay as it is. It just needs at the very least, it needs fixing. And then the last issue I had with the game is I did have it crash back to my desktop. And yes, I know it's an early access, all this stuff can be fixed, which is why I haven't released this as a do not buy video. But yes, when a game crashes, it really, really frustrates me because I feel games shouldn't do that. And not only that, you could lose progress. Sometimes games even running on an NVMe SSD can take a long time to load up. It's just frustrating when a game does crash. So I had the crash back to desktop. However, with those issues mentioned, I'm also going to mention some other things that I really like about this game. So number one is the crop selection. There is a very decent amount of crops available. You've got all your different fruits and veggies and things like that you would normally see in a farming game. Number two, because I'm lazy, you can hire workers to go around and do it all. You can't actually go and do all of the planting and stuff yourself, I don't think. I'm pretty sure this game is more based on a map than it is doing any of the work yourself. I'm a huge fan of games that let you pick to play anywhere in the world. If I remember correctly, there are 2 other games I've played within the last few years that have done it. I think one was called Infection Free Zone or something like that, which is like a zombie outbreak one. And the other one was a bus manager, so you get to manage a fleet of buses and stuff. And they let you pick anywhere on the map to play the game. And I think that's a fantastic feature to have in a video game where you are basically running a company. Or if you've got a group of survivors for the sake of Infection Free Zone or whatever that game was called. Apologies that I can't remember its exact name. And then the last thing, which is a massive thing, is you're not just stuck on this map view where you basically work with the fields and planting and harvesting and things like that. You actually have your own farm to deal with. And it's very easy to go from map to farm view. There's literally a button at the bottom of the screen you can click and it changes the view. And when you're in your farm, this is where you deal with things like having your vehicles, expanding your storage for your crops that you've grown and harvested. This is also where you get animals. So with the vehicles, you have to place down a parking space, then you have to buy the vehicles and put them in their parking spots. I mean, it's basically just like a big sort of concrete sort of block, and then you just buy a tractor and just place it on there. But then you buy your warehouses to expand all of your storage, and you buy actual sheep barns. You get chicken coops, and then what you do, for an example, I bought myself some sheep. What you do is you go to the animal tab, you purchase animals. My barn could hold 6 sheep. And then with those, what you have to do is go back to map view. You have to purchase a brand new field for your sheep. Then you have to convert it so that the sheep are able to go on it and eat the grass and everything. And then over time, they are going to eat their food, stay happy and everything, and they are going to produce wool, which you can then go and sell on the marketplace or fulfill contracts with. So there is a lot to do in this game. I really like the idea of being able to place your farm anywhere in the world. And to answer the question, is it worth playing Global Farmer? I'm going to say yes, it is. But because I've been given early access to this game, I'm not sure how much it's going to cost. And I would say to not really pay anything over £15 for it. I would say, in fact, I'd probably cap it at about £10, £12, maybe $15-ish. Like, just for an early access price. They're obviously going to be working on it within a year or so. Like, I mean, up to a year or so, they should have it out of early access into its full release. So it's going to take time for them to fix some things, to add new features in and stuff. Their current plans from the early access to full release is to have advanced processing of your goods, add in some new animals and meadows, improve the map editor, because you can edit all the maps and stuff as well. And they also want to rework the fruit trees and things like that. Like, there's basically a few things at the moment. They're going to be taking player feedback and stuff on boards to improve the game over time as well. So for Global Farmer, again, massive thank you to Matteo for reaching out to me and hitting me up with a key to play the game, especially in such short notice. Literally less than 40 minutes to get the game key. And I would say when it comes to playing Global Farmer that yes, it is worth it, but I wouldn't go spending a lot of money on it, especially in early access, because granted, it's a very good, enjoyable game, but it does need a little bit of work still. So what we are going to do on that note is leave that video there. Let me know your thoughts and stuff about this game in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.